He was born in a one-room weaver's cottage in Dunfermline, Scotland, in 1835, surrounded by thread, looms, and the hard arithmetic of poverty. His name was Andrew Carnegie. Long before it was carved above libraries, concert halls, universities, and foundations for peace, he was a boy listening to machines make his father's craft disappear. In the Carnegie home, money was food, rent, shoes, coal, and the difference between hope and humiliation. Andrew's father, William, was a handloom weaver, proud of his skill, but the Industrial Revolution moved faster than pride could survive. Factories made cloth more cheaply than cottage weavers could. Work dried up, debts grew, the future narrowed. Andrew's mother, Margaret, refused to let the family collapse. She repaired shoes, sold small goods, and held the household together with a fierce will Andrew never forgot. From her, he learned that poverty could wound you, but it did not have to define you. From his father, he inherited a love of books, debate, music, and dignity. In 1848, when Andrew was 12, the Carnegies left Scotland for America. They were not chasing luxury, they were fleeing failure. Like millions of 19th century immigrants, they crossed the Atlantic because the old world had offered too little, and the new one promised at least the possibility of more. They settled in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, a smoky industrial town. America did not welcome Andrew with open arms. It handed him a job. His first work was in a cotton factory as a bobbin boy. 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He changed spools of thread beside roaring machinery. He was 13. The work was exhausting, dangerous, and monotonous. His pay was about $1.20 a week. That boy, walking through a factory with aching legs and lint in his lungs, did not look like a future titan of industry. He looked like what he was, a poor immigrant child at the bottom of the American ladder. But poverty had not taken two things from Andrew Carnegie. He was hungry to learn and hungry to rise. After the cotton mill, he became a messenger boy in a telegraph office. The job changed everything. Pittsburgh's telegraph office was a nerve center of business. Messages came from railroads, factories, merchants, and newspapers. Andrew delivered them across the city, memorizing streets, names, offices, and faces. He did not just carry information. He studied the people who controlled it. He taught himself to recognize telegraph signals by sound. Soon he could take messages without writing them down first, a rare skill. That talent made him a telegraph operator and brought him into the orbit of Thomas Scott, an important official with the Pennsylvania Railroad. The railroad was the internet of its age. Fast, transformative, and brutally competitive. It moved people, coal, iron, steel, news, and ambition. Carnegie entered that world as a young employee and learned how modern business worked. The future belonged not only to men who worked hard, but to men who understood systems. He studied costs, speed, organization, and the power of technology to destroy old ways of working and create new fortunes. During the Civil War, Carnegie helped manage military rail and telegraph operations for the Union. The war showed how central railroads, bridges, iron, and communications had become. It also taught him a lesson that shaped his future. Whoever supplied the infrastructure of a growing nation could become unimaginably rich. Carnegie began investing in sleeping cars, oil, bridges, and iron. He was still young, but he had an instinct for where the economy was going. He did not want merely to earn wages. He wanted ownership. Then came steel. In the second half of the 19th century, America was rebuilding itself at enormous scale. It needed rails that would not snap, bridges that could span rivers, buildings that could rise higher, and machines that could run longer. Iron had limits. Steel was stronger, more durable, and increasingly cheaper to make. Carnegie saw the opportunity early. He visited Britain, studied new methods of steel production, and returned determined to build. He did not invent steel, and he did not work alone. But he understood how to combine technology, capital, management, and ruthless efficiency into a machine for making money. His mills near Pittsburgh became symbols of a new industrial age. They used the latest processes, controlled costs obsessively, and pushed output higher and higher. Carnegie built vertically, investing in raw materials, transportation, and production, so his companies controlled more of the chain from mine to finished steel. The results were staggering. Steel poured out, railroads expanded, cities rose. Carnegie's fortune grew so large it became difficult to imagine. And yet, the story is not simple. Carnegie liked to present himself as a friend of labor, a man who had once been poor and understood workers. But the steel empire that made him rich demanded long hours, dangerous conditions, and relentless pressure. In 1892, at the Homestead Steel Plant, a bitter labor conflict exploded into violence while Carnegie was abroad in Scotland. The strike and its defeat left a permanent stain on his reputation. That contradiction sits at the heart of his life. He rose from poverty and preached opportunity, but his wealth came from an industrial system that often crushed the workers inside it. He believed in progress, but progress had casualties. He believed in peace, but built a fortune in a world powered by competition. Still, Carnegie never forgot the power of a book. As a young worker in Allegheny, he had been allowed to borrow books from the private library of Colonel James Anderson, a local man who opened his collection to working boys. For Carnegie, that access was transformative. He later believed that the man who gives a boy access to books gives him the tools to change his life. This memory became one foundation of his philanthropy. In 1889, Carnegie published an essay often called The Gospel of Wealth. He argued that a person who accumulated a great fortune had a moral duty to use it for the public good during his lifetime. He did not think the rich should simply leave vast inheritances to their children, or that charity should only relieve immediate suffering. He wanted wealth to create ladders, institutions that help people help themselves. In 1901, Carnegie sold his steel company to J.P. Morgan. The deal helped create United States Steel, and Carnegie became one of the richest men in the world. The Bobbin Boy had reached the summit. But what would he do from there? He began giving money away on a scale that astonished the world. Libraries became his most famous gift. Across the United States, Britain, Canada, and beyond, Carnegie funded thousands of public library buildings. They were not monuments to silence. They were engines of self-education. Imagine what a library meant in a working-class town before radio, television, or the internet. It meant heat in winter, light after dark, newspapers, novels, history, science, and technical knowledge. It meant a child of poverty could enter a public building and meet the minds of the world. Carnegie also funded education. He supported what became Carnegie Mellon University. He created the Carnegie Institution for Science. He supported teachers through pension systems. He helped establish cultural institutions, including Carnegie Hall in New York, a temple for music built by a man whose poor Scottish father had loved song and poetry. Then came peace. Carnegie had seen war, industrial conflict, and the arms race among nations. In later years, he became convinced humanity needed better ways to settle disputes. He funded the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and supported arbitration, diplomacy, and international law. This was not the fantasy of a soft life. It was the dream of a man who had watched competition build empires and break bodies. He believed civilization could choose institutions over violence, but history did not obey him. In 1914, World War I began, devastating Europe and shattering Carnegie's hopes for peace. For a man who had spent his final years trying to prevent war, it was a crushing blow. Andrew Carnegie died in 1919, far from the weaver's cottage where his life began. By then, he had given away much of his fortune. His name had become attached to libraries, universities, music, science, and peace. So what do we do with a life like his? If we make him only a hero, we miss the workers who paid the price of his rise. If we make him only a villain, we miss the boy who believed books could rescue the poor because books had helped rescue him. The truth is more human and more challenging. Andrew Carnegie was a child of poverty who became a builder of wealth. He was an industrialist who understood the future before others did. He was a ruthless competitor who later tried to serve the public good. He was proof that opportunity can transform a life, and proof that wealth always carries a moral question. The Bobbin Boy did not literally buy the world, but he bought doors thousands of them, and opened them to people he would never meet. A door to a library, a door to a classroom, a door to a concert hall, a door, however fragile, toward peace.